Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be my kind of preview, kind of final thoughts on my Cabbages just before it actually releases. So this is of course the picture book that's coming out in 2 weeks and 1 day. It's coming out August 27th, 2024. Again, it's going to be 40 pages. Its art style obviously is going to be somewhat similar to like I Am Aang, I Am Zuko, I Am Katara. But it's a bigger book, there is much more pages like I said, and the big significant marketing point with this book is that in a departure from current Avatar picture books on the market, this storybook will feature all new original content starring a fan favorite protagonist, the Cabbage Merchant. So, Quirk Books here are deciding to take the picture book format and actually do something new with it. Not just recap material, but partial recap material, but then new stuff. We already know there's new stuff in the book because we know the Cabbage Merchant's name now and have known it for a couple of months from the early preview pages. His name is C-A-I, Say. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is. They never say what it is. So there's not too much to talk about with the description because it's basically just that, okay, we're going to recap the Cabbage Merchant's story, but because he doesn't have that much of a story, there's clearly going to be a lot of kind of gap filling in that happens in this book, and we get to see quite a bit of that in the new preview pages that we have here. So with that stuff out of the way, price point of the book, I suppose I should address, $18.99 US dollars, 25 Canadian, so relatively expensive. That's probably the only major, I think, weakness perhaps of this, is that that is a somewhat expensive book for what it is, 40 pages. When you consider that the new comic, Bounty Hunter and the Tea Brewer, is going to be quite a bit cheaper than that, and that has like 72 pages, you can sort of see what the issue is. But it is a hardcover book. That's probably the main difference that we have here. But anyway, let's get into the preview pages. So straight away, you can see some interesting stuff here from the visuals. It's like, oh my god, the Cabbage Merchant's family, look at them. And then the description is really interesting as well, because it clarifies here that the Cabbage Merchant is from Gaoling, which is where Toph is from, of course. It's like the Beifongs, where they have their kind of legacy is all related to Gaoling, even into the past generations. So similarly with the Cabbage Merchant, and it says here, he has the roadside cabbage stand like his mother had and her mother before her. So it's in the kind of it's the family business, selling cabbages. So that's a fun little thing. But he wants something more, and so he's going to head out to the big city to sell cabbages. So this is why he's going to Omashu, and so he decides that he's going to leave one day to make this dream happen, and he says that he will send for them when he is settled. So the plan is he goes off on his own, builds his cabbage empire, and then he'll bring his family to live in one of the bigger cities, is the idea here. So this explains a few things, you know, what his dream is, why he's a cabbage merchant, a little bit of the origin of his family. Nice stuff. But then we see the family, and you can see here, okay, his wife, that's fine, because we know he had a son, Lao Gan Lan, and we get to see little Lao here, which is very funny. And the big reveal is, though, that he also has a daughter who we had never heard anything about before. So far from these preview pages, there's no name given to the wife or the daughter, but we'll see what happens here. They don't even name Lao in any of these pages either, but we just know from context that this is who it is because of Korra, basically. So, cool stuff straight away there. Then we're more into the recap stuff of like, this is just addressing like Omashu, basically, and like, okay, it's cool to see the more standard picture book stuff here of just recap kind of material, but done in this art style. Same with this next page, just addressing the idea that from the Cabbage Merchant's perspective, the actions of many characters towards Aang comes across kind of badly because Aang keeps like knocking over all of his stuff, but everyone loves the Avatar, so it's a bit of a contrast, which is kind of fun, and we'll get to another very fun thing in a minute. But yeah, he's unfortunately forced to leave because he has like rotten cabbages and all this sort of stuff. So he sends a letter back to his family. I'm leaving Omashu. People are very hostile to cabbages here. Headed to greener cabbage pastures with love and cabbages, Papa Sai. So he leaves, and we have an idea about where his story goes, but I guess we're going to see more of the transition be made here. But then we have the Amazon preview, which we have the look inside section here. So this gives us a little bit more of an insight into what's happening here. So the inside pages, interesting, there's a map of the world lined by cabbages. The only notable thing that's marked on the map here is a cabbage, and his restaurant, the Cabbage Delicacies Bistro, is marked where Republic City is, aka Cranefish Town, depending on what era we're talking about here. But either way, this is a reference to the comics here in the book, and it's a big question about sort of, is the book actually going to tell his story up to and including the comics? How far are we going with his story is an interesting one. So that's nice. We get the fact that the writer of the story is Rebecca Gyllenhaal and Jessica Yang, based on, of course, the story by Mike and Brian, of course. One thing to mention here in the credits is just that they license Avatar The Last Airbender, but it doesn't mention Korra. So it probably means we're not really going to get too much references to, like, very far into the future, like Lao Gan Lan older. I don't think we're going to see that here. They're going to, I think, keep it to ATLA kind of time period. Momo, Appa eating cabbages, of course. But then, interestingly, this is apparently the actual first opening page of the book. It's the cabbage merchant cabbage bending, basically, in his dreams. And we get, long ago, the cabbage merchant lived in harmony. Then everything changed when the Avatar attacked. I think that's fun. That's very clever from his perspective. That's the way he views the story. You had to lean in that direction, I think. Very nice. Lead into the other preview pages here. The cabbage merchant and his wife taking the cabbages out. Then we have this page, of course, that we already saw. And then we see him leaving his journeys to get to Omashu here. So Merchant Kai walked for many days, and at night he slept beneath a blanket of cabbages, which... obviously, there we go. There's the reason his cabbages are not in good condition when he arrives at Omashu. After all those days and nights on the road, some of his cabbages were slimy and rotten. Well, of course, you were sleeping on them. So this explains his bad trouble at Omashu. And this is where the preview comes to an end for now. So that's a fun little one. Let's get into going through the Cabbage Merchant's like actual story. So what else are we going to get from this book? So we now know that his origins are in Gaoling. He heads out to Omashu to sell his cabbages in the big city. We saw that, of course. The next appearance of the Cabbage Merchant within the story is in 109, the Waterbending Scroll. He ends up at the CD Merchant's Pier, where once again we do the same joke as we did from 105. It's then quite a gap between the next appearance, where he appears at Full Moon Bay, where once again the sort of Omashu situation happens, where his cabbages are kind of rotten and not in good condition, and so he's initially rejected. But we then see that by Tales of Ba Sing Se, he has made his way into the big city. So the first big city didn't work, so he's going to the actual big city in Ba Sing Se to make a name for himself, and this is where it seems to work for him, based on something I will show you in a second. Then the last detail we have about him in relation to ATLA is that, of course, at some point he meets Puan Tim and tells him about his encounters with the Avatar to give Puan Tim information to create the boy in the iceberg ahead of the Ember Island players, of course. So that's everything we know about him just from like ATLA itself. Then we have the RPG Vanishing Act Adventure, where he does appear in this. But what's interesting about this is that the adventure is an Aang era adventure, which is kind of comic era, and he's in Ba Sing Se during this. But we also know that during the earlier comics, he's in Cranefish Town. So he obviously, at some point towards the end of the series, does well enough that he makes a name for himself in Ba Sing Se, is able from there to go and open up Cabbage Delicacies Bistro in Cranefish Town, and I guess goes back and forth between Ba Sing Se and Cranefish Town. I think the angle they're going for this is probably that he actually brings his family to stay in Ba Sing Se, so he succeeds with his goal of wanting his family to live in one of the bigger cities, but he makes his business in Cranefish. And I'm guessing maybe because this ultimately evolves into, this does very well. It then evolves into kind of Cabbage Corp because he meets Satoru, finds out about the forklift and that technology is advancing. He gets into that field because his bistro's doing really well. And, that all goes well. And of course, Cabbage Corp takes off as one of the earlier businesses in Republic City. He's already there where the action is happening. And things just go exceptionally well for him here, of course. Very successful, and we know, of course, that he still, even with the other business, still trades cabbages because it's so related to his history, of course, and his family. So that's the story of the Cabbage Merchant as far as we know it. Obviously, a lot of transition stuff that we need to get to here is like what happens in between Omashu and getting to the waterbending scroll, what happens between this pretty long gap here and getting to basically towards Ba Sing Se, and then how does he actually get to Ba Sing Se after what happens, and then especially once he arrives in Ba Sing Se, like how does that all go down for him? How successful is he from an early point? Which ring of the city are we kind of talking about? That whole thing. Are we going to get to meet Puan Tim? That would be a very cool reference to see that character appear. And obviously the other thing that it prompts is like, I would love to see a very, very clear and direct reference to the comic. We already seem to effectively have it. Because like I showed you earlier on here, they do mark where Cranefish Town is with the Cabbage Delicacies Bistro here. So that by itself is like a reference to the comic. So it's not that they can't do it, but we'll see what they actually go about doing. So that's that. Last thing I need to tell you guys about is that on the publisher's website, you'll note this section here that says exclusive downloads. If you click that, you get a link to download something. And if you download that something, you get this, the My Cabbages Activity Kit. Now, really quickly, there's not much to this. There's a spot the difference thing. We'll address this image in a second. There is a count the cabbages game thing. There's a maze, which is fun. Chibi Cabbage Merchant, Chibi Cabbages. This is kind of cool. The line art, so you can color in the cover yourself. That's actually kind of nice if you print that off. But the big thing here is, I'm guessing new preview pages. I'm assuming this is a double page spread from more towards the middle or end of the book. Again, I don't know where they're going to wrap it up for his story. This looks like a page that you could use to wrap it up because you have the Cabbage Merchant doing well in Ba Sing Se, and he's among the main characters, and he succeeded in his mission because he has his family with him. It's interesting, but it's also like, wait, this is clearly the Jasmine Dragon, because the Jasmine Dragon has these windows and this kind of door opening in the middle between the windows. What happens here? Is this a bit of just a crossover kind of moment that happened that we didn't see on screen? It's not super clear. So, like, is there actually going to be a major crossover between the Cabbage Merchant and, like, Iroh? And that this sets the stage for he's successful here, and this then leads to him going to Cranefish Town. Not sure overall. But the one interesting thing here is obviously the outfits the characters are wearing. Mainly Aang, Katara, and Sokka. Because it's Aang in his book 1-2 outfit. It's Katara in her book 2 outfit. And Sokka's in his book 2 outfit as well. This clearly has to be set post end of the series. Which is a weird spot because I don't think it's really far into the future. I think it's like immediately post-series. So what clothes should they be wearing? Because this just doesn't feel right to me. Aang, I can maybe understand where, like, if we're a year away from him having his, like, character redesign for the comics type thing, I understand maybe why he goes back to his old style outfit rather than transitioning up to his kind of newer outfit that we see in the comics. Katara, I think, is the odd one, where it's like her outfit for her book 3 outfit was already a Water Tribe outfit. So why does she go back to her book 2 style one? That's a bit odd. Kind of same for Sokka, where like he has the more kind of armor kind of design. I think the problem here is just, I suppose, a difference between like the characters' sort of almost like battle outfits versus what their more modern outfits actually are. So maybe this is explained just by the fact that this is what they are wearing day to day, post series until they change their outfits for the time skip. Probably reading too much into it, but it's happened enough in Avatar where they kind of mess up the outfits and how accurate they are. It's just something I think is worth referencing here. But it's cool. Obviously, he sends for his kids. So obviously successful in Bossing Say and not in Omashu. I'd be interested to know if this is the final page or if there's more after this. Because it kind of feels like there probably should be a little bit after this just to get us up to speed with all that stuff. But I think that's everything I want to talk about here. So just in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on My Cabbages. Are you going to be getting this book yourself? How excited are you? Especially now that we have a little bit more content. Like, we've seen quite a bit of the first kind of section of the book. Obviously, there's a lot of potentially very interesting things still to come because, like I pointed out here, there's so many like gaps between his appearances. There's definitely some space to fill in some things, and then the very interesting stuff like when we get to post-series. I'm fascinated to see what they do and how far they go, because this definitely opens the door to these picture books being much more interesting than they had been previously. So I'm definitely going to try and get this book day of release and get a video up about it as soon as possible. But just look out for that one in just over 2 weeks. Once again, it's August 27th, 2024. As far as I'm aware, only in hardcover, but they are saying digital, so I don't know what to make of that. I haven't seen any listing for a digital version of it, but we'll see how it goes. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on My Cabbages, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.